Hello, my name is Rico, and welcome to Media Overthinkers Movie Reviews, where we'll be talking about whether or not this movie is worth watching, and if it is, how should you watch it. Then I'll tell you my final review score. On today's review, we'll be talking about the fairly unknown movie Lake Mungo. This is a spoiler review, so if you don't want the movie to be ruined, then you should probably go ahead and close this video. Lake Mungo has to be one of my top 5 favorite scary movies, but I'll say that with a grain of salt because I don't think a lot of other people would agree with my opinion. Like a lot of horror movies, this movie is one that you'll either love or hate. There's very little in between. In fact, my friends and I have found a very interesting trend amongst our fellow viewers where every guy who watched the movie found it to be pretty creepy and was pretty scared by it. Every girl who saw it was pretty much bored and fell asleep soon after the movie started. Granted, that was only with about a pool of 15 people that I watched it with, but it was groups of people across different states, different friends, and different family members from different areas. So it was pretty consistent over the amounts of times that I watched it. So if you're trying to watch this with your girlfriend, you can probably expect her to start using you as a pillow about quarter way through the movie. It sounds like a win-win to me. Lake Mungo is one of the most unique movies I've ever seen because it is literally a documentary. I'm not saying that this movie is in the camcorder genre or that the majority of the movie is even considered maybe a found footage genre movie, but I am saying that this is straight up a documentary. I'm talking about a full-on Barbara Walters interview. Maybe something a little bit more like a true crimes documentary that comes on Saturday night on one of those lesser known networks where people are answering questions in a chair from an interviewer, but we actually never get to see the interview. Now, you might be asking yourself, how in the world could this movie be interesting? Well, you would be right. I will say that this movie is not without its flaws, but if you can allow yourself to pretend that you're actually watching an unsolved crime documentary on TV, this movie can actually become more realistic than one of those crime dramas that actually happen. This movie can really creep you out and linger long after it's over. Out of a pool of horror movie genres that I've created, it seems as though Lake Mungo can be classified by the following genres and categories: documentary, ghost, found footage, and maybe psychological thriller. So it's definitely understandable if some people are not able to stay awake through the whole movie. Documentaries are not made for everybody. Now, I believe that almost every scary movie has the capability to actually frighten someone. With some exceptions, there are some movies that are so bad that I would not qualify them as scary movies. But I believe that how, where, and who you watch a movie with strongly affects how much you like the movie and will determine for scary movies if you're actually scared by it. So for Lake Mungo, I would definitely advise that if you're gonna watch it with somebody, that you watch with somebody who's actually quiet and appreciates scary movies as well. Somebody who talks a lot or is gonna complain about this or that being done in the movie, or maybe somebody who has a laughing coping mechanism so they don't actually get scared in the movie. It's probably going to ruin this movie for you, and you probably won't appreciate it as much as you would if you had watched it alone. Lastly, I would say that you should definitely not text while you're watching this movie, or try not to do anything else like cook dinner, because this movie has a lot of details in it, and if you aren't watching carefully and you don't see the details, it will literally mean nothing to you. Now, what I like about this movie is that there are no jump scares and there are no annoying loud sounds just to try to get a cheap gimmicky scare out of you. But this movie is very quiet. It's very eerie. They spend a lot of time just kind of like not even talking sometimes, where they'll just have a lingering moment for you to think about what's going on. The next on my list is the actors. The actors, in my opinion, did a fantastic job portraying a family who's being interviewed by somebody like Barbara Walters about the death of their daughter. And you can really feel in a lot of these interviews the emotion coming from the actors. The micro facial expressions that they're giving off shows that they're actually thinking and feeling distraught over the loss of their daughter. Another thing I liked about this movie is that it's highly rewatchable. There are so many scenes within the movie where you're just watching it plainly and you won't even catch some of the things going on in the background that are very creepy and eerie. I won't say too much, but this screen here actually has something else going on that isn't revealed until maybe a little bit later, maybe during the end of the movie or the second or third time you watch it. Now, one of my favorite things about this movie is actually the link between the mother, June, and her daughter, Alice. Alice is the main character who's actually the ghost. She's dead. Basically, there seems to be some sort of link between June and Alice, even though in reality, in the physical world, they are not close at all. They do seem to be connected by some sort of like prophetic psychic energy or something like that. And the movie doesn't explicitly talk about that because it's, trying to sound and be very realistic. But what's actually going on in the actual situation is that June is sometimes seeing Alice in the future or the past, and then same thing for Alice. Alice is seeing in her dreams what's going on with her mom and also the rest of her family. And we all know that, if you've seen the movie, that Alice actually sees even more than that. She sees herself. And so very interesting link that they have between the mother and the daughter. And we can see here that June in the movie, she actually explains a moment, well, multiple moments, when she's having a lot of dreams. She actually can't recollect whether it's a dream or if it's that she actually saw it or that she couldn't sleep. But she says that on multiple accounts she is trying to fall asleep, and she looks over and she sees Alice at the foot of their bed, just staring at them for a long time. And of course, it's not until a little bit later that we actually see that Alice has written in her diary that she did in fact go into her parents' room and stand at the foot of their bed. Alice had passed away. That June is discovering this in her journal. So for June, this is not only sad and causing more grief for her, but it's also revealing to her that there was something really inexplicable going on in Alice's life and in whatever she was going through, this spiritual experience that she was having. I don't know if you guys have ever had an experience like this before, where you've had a dream about something, or you maybe had a daydream or just a thought about something, and it was so real, and then months or years later you actually go through that very experience, and it's more than a deja vu. It's like the opposite of a deja vu, because a deja vu, you feel like you've gone through something before. But in this situation, it's, that you've talked about it with your friends. You had that dream. You told people about it, and then it actually comes true. And maybe some of you have actually gone to a coworker or a friend and said, "Hey, do you remember when I told you about that weird dream? It just happened the other day." So I feel like this is what's going on with June, which would be normally pretty exciting and a little bit mysterious, but because it's revealing something that happened to Alice in the past, and she was only experiencing it now that Alice had passed away, it's causing her to go through some weird emotions. So you can see this in the movie, and I definitely encourage you to check that part out. And the last favorite part that I have of the movie is the finale. And this is where we actually get to see a piece of what Alice has been going through, and it actually ends up being the climax of what she's been going through spiritually. This very off-putting and odd experience that she has to confront. And she has to confront both the spiritual issue and also herself. And maybe that's what the movie is trying to say. I'm not 100% sure that's the direction that they were going in. But you can see in this one last scene that Alice is going through some really strange events. And so we won't show you any more than this. You can barely see it. But this is basically what she's been seeing for a long time. And shortly after, you get to actually see what that is. Now I'd like to talk about what I don't like about the movie. I have no problem with the brother himself, but I do have a problem with the plot development that they placed him into. And so about midway through the movie, we discover that the brother has actually been making all of this stuff up that we've been seeing in terms of ghost pictures and noises and videos and all that stuff. All the stuff that he had been recording was fake. It was all a hoax. And the movie never really gives a good explanation. They try to cover it up in some ways. I don't know, it's kind of weird. But they never really fully give an explanation as to why he's done it. And the family members struggle with understanding why he did what he did. And so I feel like this was just a really cheap plot device, a cheap twist in the story, just to make people go, oh wow, so yeah, it wasn't real, the experience wasn't real. I don't know why a brother or any family member on Earth would actually do what he did. Maybe they would do it in the secret. I could actually understand that if somebody was placing pictures of their loved one into a scene of the house, but I would never have taken that picture and then said, hey mom, I look what I found, Alice is here, she's with us. So that part is very odd to me, and and even the characters express in the movie how they're not able to reconcile with the fact that he lied about such a really sensitive issue. And the other thing I don't like about this movie is Alice's story arc itself. She is made to be this fun-loving, social butterfly, awesome sister and daughter. She's probably the best part of the family through the beginning part of the story, and then midway through, once again, we find out in a very interesting twist where she's been having a sexual relationship with the neighbors next door, probably a couple who's in their late 30s or early 40s. She's sexually involved with them. And when I sat back and watched it the first time, I kind of was just absorbing everything, and I didn't like it. And after you watch it the second and third time, you just realize, man, was that necessary at all? It did nothing for the character. She, I almost feel like the movie would have benefited more for Alice being that nice, pure, innocent, happy-go-lucky girl. Instead, they had to add some sort of complex character issue to her, and I don't know. It's just it's not my cup of tea. I think Lake Mungo is a great watch, with quiet and dreadfully eerie music, beautiful cinematography despite being a documentary, with its only true vice being a very bad gimmicky twist. This movie is horrifying, sad, and deeply personal, and has great insight in telling us what secrets and inner demons our loved ones might be struggling with, and the despair that we can feel after discovering it. Well, thank you for tuning in to Media Overthinkers Movies and Reviews. Once again, my name is Rico. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and leave a comment letting me know what you thought about the movie. Until next time, we'll see you on our next video.